without further ado, we're on time.
Yep.
Without a schedule. Hello. This is I guess I gotta introduce you a little bit. It's Geno from maps like Dharma, Calamari, and the SpongeBob map, Bikini Bottom. And then you had it was a DE Colony that I originally like. I didn't know your name back then, but when I saw the video, it was so funny. Like after all these years, knowing that it was you who made one of those maps that really inspired me to start mapping. Like that was the first mapping video that I've probably seen, and it was at that time when 3Clicks posted the Disparity video series, and then he uploaded the Sivo review, and Cotton was shitting on Disparity a little bit, and I dwelled into that, and I got another Cotton video recommended to me, and that's how I pretty much learned about like your mapping. I didn't know who you were, and yeah, that's like the first touch, I guess. And then a little bit of a context as well. Later on, you were working on Dharma, and I was working on Astra. And originally Astra's version, or the theme, was going to be set in India. And I was Googling some pictures of the river Ganges with the stairs from that's very visually a very noticeable iconic scene, and now it's in Dharma. So I saw and I found Dharma in the workshop. I was like, oh god damn it, I cannot go with this theme because someone else is doing it better than me. So I scrapped that, and Astra became what it became. But your projects right now, it's Dharma, right? Dharma number 1.
Yeah.
And with that has obviously with the new tools for CS2, that has been probably a nice learning environment. Like you can block out, you can get used to the tools.
I think the new hammer, I'm just in love with that, because it has made my life so easier.
Yeah.
So the things that I used to do in Blender earlier, now I can do directly in Hammer. Also, things like hotspot materials. I mean, they're so useful. You can do things pretty much very quickly. So yes. And also, I mean, there's still a lot to learn, because I'm still getting used to with all the file formats and how so for example, today I was working on a smaller map, and I was just trying to figure out like how do I compile a texture so that, I mean, from a PNG to a VTeX file. So ultimately I had to I mean, it doesn't have to be a material because it was part of the UI. So I'm talking about those images, like once you load up the map, right? So you have those images in the background. So it doesn't need a vmat file as such, because it's not a material. It just needs an image file which has been converted to VTeX.
Yeah.
So the only way I figured out later on was, just create a material file and then delete the material file and keep the VTeX file. So, yeah.
Nice workflow. Again with Valve engine, source engine related shit, there's always a workflow that's like the most counterintuitive, right?
Yes,
and
yes.
The first like thing when Half-Life Alyx came out, and when I saw you got the CS2 beta like almost right away, didn't you?
Yes.
Yeah, and I remember seeing a tweet of you making this arch. It's in Dharma. It's like around the left side. You go from T-spawn left side apartments when you go in left and right. It's that door. You made the beautiful arching on the door, and I remember you saying that like it's so lovely that you can do that geometry in engine now. Yeah.
Yeah. So I did a similar arch for Op India that I made for Counter-Strike Classic Offensive.
Yeah.
And I did that in Blender. So even in Blender, it took me a while, arranging the cylinders and making those smaller arches inside the arch.
Yeah.
But here, now that we have the arch tool, I think it's much easier, even easier than how you do it in Blender.
Yeah.
So yes. I mean, you can do most of the things in Hammer related to modeling. So it's a really cool trick.
I'm having a little bit connection issues, but I think it will pass. So let's not worry about that too much. Mm-hmm. I think also with the new mapping tools, we haven't seen in Counter-Strike past the themes that we have had usually consider like very blocky architecture that's like industrial maps and what is easy to develop, right? And the maps that yep. a lot of like Asian architecture and structures you see, they all incorporate like some very intricate details. For example, like bamboo roofs with the tiles on it. That's like cylindrical, like cylinders next to each other with very like intricate tiling on it. So without modeling or like previously third party apps, you wouldn't go for that sort of a theme. And many with my time with Mapmaking and other like search engine MapCore, those like with my time within 3D or like mapping communities, I've seen countless of like awesome, cool themes being developed. But they, at the end of the day, they get all scrapped because the modeling gap from just like a gray box to a completely finished thing requires so many other steps that it was just impossible to really pick up a theme. But with now, and like Counter-Strike has been missing like a good Asian map for a long time, but now I think and I hope that many mappers will pick up like previously unfamiliar territory or whatever. You know, you can make such intricate details with the new one, new editor, and it's just so lovely. And yeah.
What I feel about it is there are still people who tried actually, and so for example, Jinxian, I really like that map.
Yeah.
The colors and everything, it looks so good. And if you remember that map, which was made by Zen, I believe.
Yeah.
So that was also pretty cool. I think he used Wallworm for the whole map.
Mm-hmm.
So again, he used a third-party tool. But about Jinxian, I'm not really sure how they made it, but it still looks really, really good.
Yeah. But
now that you don't have those intermediate steps that you need to take, compiling all the models, and I mean, there was a lot that you had to do when you were making models for Counter-Strike Global Offensive. But now in CS2, you can just directly make it an Hammer. So yes, that's going to be really, really. I mean, people are going to explore more themes, and also the materials and the new shaders. I think that also, it just provides you the right tools to make quality stuff.
Yeah.
Like you can see, I mean, all the upcoming maps, Memento, Boulder. I mean, they look so beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, these things, I mean, they make me happy at the same time. It's scary because I just feel like I'm left behind.
yeah, and that must be that must be like the fear of being left behind. Like, am I able to do something that beautiful? It's it is very very scary, and at the final like year of Counter-Strike Global Offensive, the level of mapping was just crazy. And even the 2018 mapping contest, the exotic places contest or whatever.
It was 19.
Yeah.
19 later.
No, that was like the level of detailing in every single one of those maps was already like astonishing. So so just I can't imagine being like a new mapper and then seeing like those maps, and like of course you want to do something beautiful, but then like just delving into mapping and like struggling making like a box the first time you do something, it's so daunting and so It's no wonder so many people cannot like finish anything, because it's such a big prospect. Another thing that I wanted to touch upon, now that I'm not going to talk here too much about the Dharma and your you and Phrisk's collaboration on the map, since there's not much to talk about yet. But the visual theme, I have a little tab. I'm also reading list some of these things so that we don't run out of content. The visual theme originally was kind of it took a lot of iterating to get it to the standard that like the visibility is good, it's real to it's true to real life, and then it's also playable on like the highest level. So what do you think is going to be the largest challenge with the theming to get you know, to get it working in CS2? What's going to be the biggest challenge with that?
I mean, I think it's a big advantage that I got Phrisk to collaborate with. I mean, that's just a very fortunate thing that happened.
It's fucking amazing, and it's just having you both. I actually reconstructing the question, just knowing that, like, I would say that you're like semi-professional, since you're working with people with experience, and you yourself have like like 10 years of experience already at this point, over 10 years probably with mapping in general. Just from the prospect of knowing what goes into developing a map, it must be so reassuring having a professional work with you, and then you already having completed like maps under your belt, that you can dive into it, and you both know what you're getting yourselves into. So that already, to like new map makers, that must be, it's just like when you see someone talking about finishing maps, completing maps, and like how much stuff goes into development, that must be but that must be nice that you have a second person there to help you with the reassurance of you can actually finish this.
Oh yes. Now, because you were talking about the challenges, I feel one thing that I actually worry about. So earlier, my worries were that, you know, the person that I was working with, Squeeze It. So he was like, you know, I've already spent some 2-3 years doing Dharma, and now I want to move on. Which is fair, and I think the level that Dharma had in terms of aesthetics, it wouldn't have been possible without him. So you know, it was quite worrisome for me, you know, because I know that there is potential in this map. The layout is different, and also it received a lot of love from the community. And it's also very polarizing, because when people play it, there are people who absolutely hate it because it's not standard. And then there are people who absolutely love it because it is something which is
something fresh.
You know, it's something fresh. So I knew the potential, and I wanted to continue on this, and also I didn't want a direct port. So that was the first thing that I wanted to do. I mean, you know, I tried porting it, then I realized that, okay, even porting is, you know, it's taking me a lot of effort. So why not just start from the scratch and, you know, just utilize all the tools that I have now. So that's something I started doing, but then this was a setback that, you know, Squeeze It is not working with me. But I still decided to continue. I was like, okay, never mind, I'll learn. And then this happened. I collaborated with Phrisk, which is really, really good. One thing that I still see as a challenge is, you know, earlier when we were developing Dharma, we didn't have a deadline as such. You know, we were not pushing ourselves to finish it as soon as possible. And so there was a lot of personal stuff that went into it. Personal as in a lot of details that you can, you know, just you don't have to put them in the map. You can get away with it. But we still did that because, you know, it was I mean, we were just pouring all our love into it. So that's how we developed it. And right now, while we are doing it again, I just feel, I mean, it's a fear that I have in the back of my mind that, will I be able to, be just as engaged as I was earlier or not?
Yeah.
So that's something.
That's definitely like will you burn out of it? That's with every project, like with anything you do in life. Are you gonna get like are you gonna get same with like relationships or whatever, when you're like getting into a relationship, there's always, you have to think about that, and for some relationships that is true, like just like divorces happen, and divorces with map making projects also happen. Like how many projects have been dropped because of like whatever. Some morning, like you wake up and you just think about like an angle in a map, and then you're just like, fuck, that's not gonna work. But you saying that, that the map has potential, that's very important for other mappers to hear. And you also saying that like the map has gotten a lot of love, has gotten a lot of also negative feedback. I know for a fact that there are people who just don't like it because it's not conforming to like a normal standard. And you would say, actually, point about the Valve interview that Valve just did like a couple days ago for PC magazine. Did you see that?
Yeah, PC game.
Yeah, PC game. Yeah.
Yes. I didn't see the whole interview, but I just went through the highlights.
Yeah, I also watched 3Clicks Philip's video about it, and it was so interesting. Like the point I'm bringing up on it was the comment about Dust 2, and how like Valve realized that Dust 2 set like a standard, and everything past that has been influenced by it. But I would say that Dharma is probably like, it's more closer to like the 1.6 style of map making, right? It's like layout that doesn't conform into like having a classical middle and really building. It doesn't build up from Dust 2 that necessarily. If anything, the only thing that it kind of does have is the tight, narrow choke points. Well, in B, but even then it has like just two. It's such a different level from building up from Dust 2. Of course, Dust 2 has like tons of similarities with every map, and you could say this is from Dust 2. But Dust 2 is building from on top of Dust 1, and Dust 2 and Dust 1 are like more similar in many things. Like they have the same design assets, but they're just like in different ways. Yep. But that's so lovely and so wholesome to be so committed to a layout. And then another thing that I really want to praise is the how I described this earlier, that Dharma's like visual setting. It's the darks are like, the dark colors are not black, but they're like musky brown and green colors, which I really love from the CS:GO version. And the bright colors are like, so they pop so well from the like that pink wall material in the right hand corner, like the pink wall. That's such a good contrast, and it looks like a mud cake with some like pink frosting on top, and it looks so good. And it's just like, we need that for Counter-Strike. We need that, and it's about time.
There's a story about that. The pink material that we have used.
Yeah.
So, like it told you, all the colors and everything that was done by Squeeze It, mainly. So that pink material was also picked up by him. He made that material, he applied it there, and I mean, there were feedback at certain time where people were like, this is very saturated and it looks different from the map, and probably it doesn't go with the theme.
Yeah.
And I just told him the same feedback because he was not attending those playtests. I was the one who was attending the playtests. So he's like, see, this is the favorite part of my, this is my favorite part in the map. I'm not changing this.
Yeah.
So yeah, it stayed. So yeah, he's really good.
Yeah, and you gotta have faith with projects like collaborative projects. You gotta have faith when you're like, you are working together, but you're also working against each other. It's the same way that you're supposed to take in feedback. Like, this is you and this is feedback. You're supposed to work together, but you're also working against each other because you both have things that you want to keep and want to change. Like, the feedback becomes its own kind of a personality, and it's like there are two versions. There's your map and there's the feedback version of the map, and they are very different. And it's just like interesting how those two things clash and some sort of a compromise. Like, map making is just compromising things that are seemingly better, and sometimes the better is not necessarily even like better. It's just like conforming to the majority more. I guess that's what mapping is about, right? A little bit.
Everything, all the feedback that you can get from anyone. I mean, yeah, there are some obvious points that, okay, this is a shitty angle, whatever. But then there are some things which are just subjective. I mean, there can be people who will like it, there can be people who will hate it, and there can be things that in the first look of it you will be like, oh, this sucks. But later on, when you learn the map, it could be something very unique that you just learn with time.
Yeah.
Once you play it 2 times or 3 times. So like the mid door that we have in on Dharma, that's a similar thing. I mean, people didn't realize that there was a door.
Mm-hmm.
And people also wanted to just remove it. And I saw this video that when you were interviewing Timur, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he doesn't like doors. And he's like, why should there be anything that gives you a sound cue?
Yeah.
So the whole purpose of that door was to give the sound cue, because that's the door that CTs can use to flank Bs if they're going to the B side. So yes, I think it really depends on the design. If you're using it correctly, I think it could be a good asset.
Yeah.
So yeah, once people learned about it, I think it's a good thing. And most of the fights that I enjoy watching the matches on Dharma, I think those are at that particular spot where everything is coming together in mid. There are Ts that are standing by the tree. There are Ts that are at the double doors.
Mm-hmm.
Then there are CTs in the restaurant area and down there. So it's a good intersection where everything is happening, all the action is happening. And the second thing that you said about working against each other and working together, I mean, that is so true, because there were so many decisions that I would have taken it, but then he was the one who was telling me, no, you're going too crazy with that, or, things like that. So earlier I didn't want the balcony part to be accessible from B. I wanted to make it a really hard jump. But he was not able to do it. So, Squeeze was not able to do it. I still could do it, strafing a bit, but he was not able to do it. So he asked me to, make it easier. Then we placed that plank that is there, and from the plank you can, just have a little runway, and then you can make the jump. And because of that, if you have noticed, there were some footprints down there. If you see, if you look down from the balcony, there were some footprints and a paint bucket that was, as if the paint bucket has fallen.
Yeah.
And then there were footprints, just.
I didn't notice that detail. Okay.
So that was the story behind it, because Squeeze It was not able to do it, and he was the person who was, working with all the colors and shades. So
Right.
From there, he got up and he just walked away.
That's such a good that's story. That's like storytelling, and like it's the players will just see that and be like, oh yeah, well that's just like fun whimsical detail, but like actually having stories, and then just also like talking about having an idea and then having the skill to do it, and it's just like seeing the whole thing through. It's such a small thing in the map, but it's a big thing to develop and actually place there. But that's just those sort of things make the map what it is, and this also this is a nice bridge to also like a topic of remaking maps and changing a big part of it. Like, what is the soul of Dharma to me? And what would like changing mid and changing a path completely, what would that do to the map's integrity? And like, to me, Dharma is it's the color scheme, the theme, and the not unconforming layout style of the whole thing. Like those three things make the map for me. And you could add like a complete one, like another path to it, and the map would still be the same. But like, this is also a loaded question, but like adding on to that, I've spoken previously about I've been asked if I will remake Astra for CS2, and I always tell to everyone, I say that no, I'm not gonna remake it, because like right now the map it's not what I necessarily want, and if I would remake like a big part of it, then is it Astra anymore? I can make the exact same layout or exact same map, change a path, and then remake the visuals completely. It's another map. So like what's the point to that anymore? And in my opinion, I guess I'm like a little bit burned out still, that I cannot think about Astra anymore. But yeah, back to Dharma. Like, what's yeah.
So this thing that, you know, if you change a path and if you change the layout, if you change the theme, same. I feel the same thing about a lot of maps actually. So there are maps that are, you know, completely different now. So as compared to what they used to be in 1.6, considering the maps that were actually in the game, the official maps like Cobblestone.
Yeah.
So I mean, you realize that, okay, Cobblestone was part of the game. It continued to be, you know, a part of the game, and it changed and it evolved to be better and then to be worse.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But then the community maps specifically, there are a lot of community maps that I feel, you know, they were, they were pretty famous back then in 1.6, but they were, they were famous because they were fun, and the whole concept was different back then, because most of the people, they used to, you know, just play the game on public servers for fun and not competitively, right?
Yeah.
So, like, from Nipper, if you consider D Westwood, it used to be a very famous map, and it used to work back then. But just imagine, you know, somebody picking it up, naming it D Westwood, making it for Counter-Strike Global Offensive or CS2, and then changing the whole layout because they want to, you know, fit it to the competitive scene.
Yeah.
Is it the same map anymore? I don't think so.
Yeah.
They're just using the name. So yeah, I think that's one of the things. But with Dharma, one thing that I did was I spent a lot of time on the layout. So in 2016, when I released Calamari and Bikini Bottom. So Bikini Bottom, again, it was a fun map. So, you know, I did it in relatively very, very short time, and there were not much, you know, there were not a lot of thoughts that were given in terms of layout. So it was still a 3-lane layout, but I mean, it didn't have to be competitively viable as such. So it is what it is. But with Calamari, there were so many things that I realized later on, you know, that, okay, this thing is not working, this thing is not working. So even though it was following the standard, which was, you know, back then Dust 2, it's heavily inspired by Dust 2, but still there were flaws that I could see.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons that, you know, I just gave up on Calamari. I didn't make an update as such. I do think that I would, you know, want to continue with it later on maybe, and port it to CS2 with a little bit of change, but I don't think there will be any major change, because if I do the major changes, it's a completely new map.
Yeah.
And after that, I actually left mapping for quite a while, because in 2016 I also graduated from university. So I was, still trying to focus on the job that I had, and just I was just focusing on the real life.
Yeah.
And then in 2019 I decided to come back to mapping with this exotic mapping contest. And there was a post as well that I was making a map on which is a town along River Ganga or Ganges. And but since I was working alone, I couldn't do it within the deadline.
Yeah.
But then, and also, so I started with this layout where I wanted to do it this way itself, CTs spawning on a site itself, so that it was the same concept, but I was still figuring out like how to balance it and shit. And then I saw the deadline approaching. Then I, just went back to the standard 3-lane map. I created a 3-lane map. I still missed the deadline, and then I was like, okay, now I don't need this 3-lane map because anyway I missed the deadline, right? So I again went back to the same concept. So I before this, there were like 2 complete layouts that I completely scrapped, and the 3rd layout, and then we had playtests, we refined it, and it is what it is today. So because I have spent such a long time on the layout itself, so I don't think I'll be changing something major in the layout.
Yeah.
So it will still stay the same.
Yeah.
And minor changes, obviously, those are still there if you check the layout, the correct one. And so that's how it's going to be.
That is so reassuring to hear as well. It's just so lovely that when, I already stated this, but this is how much it matters to me, because like I'm for one, I like to stick with an idea and like really see it through. And then what even Valve said in the fresh interview that they just did is that like the fastest, like the best way, like the best mappers give a product to for playtesters to iterate on, and then change like stuff that doesn't work. But there is still like making maps it's not about changing everything that doesn't work. It's just like having the core belief in with something, and then just like changing the stuff that like is obvious for there to be changed, like bad angles. That there is a way to design like a good angle, right? There's a way to design like good feeling to a map, and I feel like with having an idea to base your like the whole map's integrity on, there are certain things that you can do right and then can do also wrong. But it's just like the experience of a mapper is just like read the environment that you're creating, read the idea, and see if the players just enjoy, if it feels naturally good. And another topic, it's so good that Valve gave even the tiniest bit of reassurance that we as mappers are doing something right. No one tells you that playtesting, like get to playtesting as soon as possible, yet almost every mapmaker knows this. And there are some, every experienced mapmaker knows this, that has like finished a project. And if you ask any mapmaker what's like the most important thing, they will say the same. It's like get to play this thing, play this. And it's also a thing that we have at Map Inc. We have went over. I think it was Barry Crisp who I talked with, who has this like dream of compiling like an online book or something. I might be quoting him completely wrong, but just compiling like a big like a folder full of just little tidbits and things that work, that have been proven to work through iteration for map makers. But it's going to be interesting to see what, like, if Valve releases more guides how to design something. But map making, definitely it's so out there for anything else, and like game design, it's just how it feels at the end of the day. And with back to Dharma, I wanna keep circling around the whole theme of Dharma. How do you respond to the negative feedback then? Like, how have you thought, like, after like finishing the layout and now being in a different game working on the layout, have you had thoughts of actually changing the layout more than just a little teeny tiny bits? Like, did you decide that you want to keep the exact same layout from CSGO to CS2? Obviously, you changed it a little bit, but like, it's still the same layout.
So a lot of I mean, there were people who were giving me negative feedback on Face It when the map was on Face It.
Mm-hmm.
Then there were people who absolutely loved the map. So I understand this thing that, you know, I mean, it is what it is, and some people will like it, some people will not like it.
Mm-hmm.
Again, my belief when I started this project, and I wanted to do a unique layout, was that if I give people the same thing, if I give people that is something based on Dust 2
mm-hmm.
or, you know, 3-lane maps, I mean, what is the difference?
Yeah.
If you're playing something, you obviously, I mean, you wouldn't enjoy Mario if it's the same level again and again.
Yeah.
There has to be something different for you to have a variety, and that's what I wanted to give. Yeah. And I understand understand the risk involved in that. And also, like, one thing that I believe about the playtesting that's flawed here is, I mean, I wouldn't say it flawed as such, because over the time when you have multiple playtests, people get over it. But one thing that a lot of people actually, you know, fall into is the first time they go for the playtest, there's a lot of feedback that they receive.
Yeah.
And, you know, immediately they will, you know, change everything according to the feedback.
Yeah.
So I think that shouldn't be there, because the people who have played the map, they've also played it only once or twice or maybe 3 times. Maybe there are things that they can, you know, learn later on. That, okay, you know, I can probably check this angle out as well.
Yeah.
On Mirage, so for example, Mirage is the most played map right now.
Yeah.
And there are so many things that you wouldn't know back in 2013 or 14, but now you know it because people have played it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like, that is one of the things, right? Back then in 2014, 15, it was Dust 2. Then it changed to Mirage because people were, you know, they overplayed Dust 2,
mm-hmm.
and now they overplayed Mirage. So I think with time, even the way people are receiving the maps, that will also change, right? People are receiving Anubis so in such a good way, even though it's much more complex than Mirage or Dust 2.
Yeah.
So I think, yes, in terms of audience as well, they will learn, and the way they see the maps, the way they can, you know, receive a complex map,
mm-hmm.
that will also become better with time. So I think with Dharma, I believe the same thing.
Yeah.
It's not flawed exactly because it works, and it works because I've seen the games. They were interesting
mm-hmm.
when you watch the game, and that's what makes me believe that, okay, it's fun to watch, then I don't have to change it. If there is something obvious that, okay, like you people talk about cover, and I take that seriously, that, okay, cover is a problem.
Mm-hmm.
That you know, if I change it, probably I can, you know, make it better. But changing the whole layout, I don't think it makes sense for me, because there will be people who just absolutely hate the map, right? People hate Vertigo, but it's still in the game.
Yeah. And it's like a little note about Vertigo. It's just like you gotta have a bad map in the roster as well.
Yes.
You can't have. Yeah.
That is something that I remember. I think it was FM Phone who said that about the forklift
mm-hmm.
on Cash.
Yeah.
That people absolutely hate it because of all the collision model that it had. It was very uneven, right? So he's like, but I left it there because there should be something to troll the players as well.
Yeah.
Let it be there.
Yeah, I remember. Was it in the Thorin interview? Might have been. So. Yeah, he was just like fuck it, it's staying, and that same of like I'm also quoting FM Point a little bit here of saying like, well, actually, this is not relevant at all, so I'm not even going to go there. About the playtesting, actually, you mentioned that's something that I'm very passionate about, just like getting the data from playtesting, and I'm also going to go to the face it and the data side of things. Also, have some question about that. But with playtesting, that's so important that you mentioned about the first player experience as well. And I think we at Mapping try to always have 2 games played on every single map with the same people, and then give the feedback. Playtesting is such a complex thing. There's so many things going on. There's the team balance. Don't get me even started on that. There's like just within the teams there are different dynamics. Are there 2 people that don't clash, or like they clash and they don't mix well? Is there something in the team that like one of them just knows like utility in first maps of the or first playlists of a map is just a huge thing, and at least like your map should be playlisted at least 10 times or something like that you should be able, or you should start doing like some sort of decision about it if it works at all. Like those we go over about, probably in a month, probably like 10 playtests, actually even more, probably around like 20 playtests a month, and or well, anyway, and so many of those playtests just result like 1, 2, 3 games result in the mapmaker being like, oh, this area didn't work, this area didn't work. And of course, you're working with inexperienced mapmakers, new mapmakers who don't really know like what works, just like looking at it or whatever. And that there are a lot of things that have to be fleshed out, but the feedback, it's so important to understand that as like as everything, it's missing nuance, it's missing this and it's missing that, and it's the first player experience. Then there are people who really focus on the first player experience, like the first time you play this something, does it feel good? And I wouldn't go too deep into that. If the first player experience should tie into, does the player know how to play the map, or like does he know what he's supposed to do? And that's like basic 101, and that goes over like lighting, pathing, visibility in general. It's like how do you make the environment understandable. But with playtesting, there's so much nuance into that, and I've seen like so many ridiculous feedback regarding like this and that, and I really think that like even if on paper, if you know that something is just like ridiculous, just playtest it and see how it plays, and the ridiculousness might turn into something funny, and then to something less funny if everyone knows about the one thing. And then the competitiveness, usually in my mind at least, means that players can take it seriously, and then from that they can get like they can get more experienced, and then they can compete on it. And just like how seriously they can take the map, the competitiveness like gets birthed from the serious aspect of taking the map. But yeah, play this thing. It's so much fun, but there's so many, like there's just so much that goes into that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So at a high level, I mean, the map is supposed to be intuitive, as in, with everything, all the playtests. I mean, before going into the playtest as well, there are like so many concepts that you can just follow just to guide the player to what he's supposed to do. But the thing is, with a game like Counter-Strike, which is so dynamic and so multidimensional, I feel you can have a thought in your brain while you are designing the map that, okay, this is how it is supposed to be played. But it's not necessary the players are going to play it the same way.
No way. Yeah.
Yep. So even though you are not supposed to rush mid in like whatever map, but there are still people who do it.
Yeah.
Sometimes it is rewarding because even the opponents are not expecting it, and you catch them off guard. but the other times, because there's no cover for you, you end up dying. So yeah, I mean, that's the nature of the game, right?
Yeah.
So, and also, I mean, there are going to be like so many elements that over the time you will learn that are not very intuitive, but you can use it for an advantage. So I feel, yes, you know, for playtesting, you need a lot of playtests before you decide to, you know, make a whole lot of changes. But again, with communities like Mapcore, Mapping, and Source Discord, these are all experienced people. So I'm not saying that whatever feedback they are giving, it's, you know, you should completely disregard it. All I'm saying is you should listen to the feedback, you should identify the problems, and then you should come up with a solution by yourself.
Yeah.
It's not like, I mean, what people tend to do is they will tell you the problems. Hey, this area is, you know, I don't enjoy this area because of like whatever the timing is, or, you know, like whatever feedback they give. And they will probably give you a suggestion as well. You know, you can probably make the CTs come a little later here. But then it's up to you. Maybe you can find some other way to solve that problem.
Yeah.
So, because there's not going to be just one way of solving it. So, yes. I think if you are experienced as a mapper, if you're learning, absolutely go by the feedback. Just listen to the people who are, you know, more experienced.
Yeah.
Or you will end up, you know, making a bad map, and then you will learn the hard way. And then you will maybe, you know, do better. So that's how I did. My first map, I didn't do what I was doing. In Colony, I didn't do shit. I mean, I didn't know anything.
Yeah.
So there was no mid in that map, because before that I was playing Counter-Strike 1.6 and I was making maps for Counter-Strike 1.6, and they were all fun maps.
Yeah.
So I didn't know the concept of, you know, the 3-lane and everything. That's Cotton who actually, you know, gave that feedback, and then I just went into this obsessive thing of, you know, just studying the layouts, how this map is working, what the layout is, and then so obviously at that time Dust 2 was the template, and then I came up with Calamari, but then I wanted to do something better, and one of the things was, you know, keep the paths minimal, the minimum number of paths, because one thing that I see in a lot of maps these days, they try to follow that 3-lane map theory, but at the same time, just to add the complexity and more depth, they add a lot of paths to the map, which personally I find a little confusing at times, because there's a lot. So what I wanted to do is, you know, you just have just the right number of paths. If you think it's less, you add one more. But it shouldn't be like, you know, you add a lot of parts and then you start removing. It should be like you add the minimum number of parts and then start adding if you want more. So that's something I did with Dharma. And so that's the thing. For feedbacks, listen to the feedback, identify the problem, and solve it by yourself. And sometimes you don't even have to solve it, because, you know, there must be some thought that you had when you designed that map. Maybe people are not grasping it right now because your map is unique. But so I think it's all about balance, how you balance that stuff.
And that's where the expertise, or like the personality of every mapper comes into. Everyone reads feedback differently, and everyone, like, some people are ready to do like massive changes based on like small little thing, and that's just their style. And they I'm sure that many professional map makers like follow, like, everyone follows different things, and like great maps have been made based on like the smallest amount of feedback, and you have just changed something and you hit the nail on its head with the second design, you know. Sometimes just redesigning shit is like makes it better as well. The point about, it's very awkward. I forgot what I was about to say about the earlier. You were saying, with Astra, for example, until a very late version, there was. So I designed the middle to have the stair in the back, and you have the headshot angle from the stair to the upper level of the window, top mid, and
yes,
within the design, I didn't even think about the rotations in the map. But now looking at the design, I played I played probably closer to like 30, 25, 40 games, 40 playlists or whatever on that map, and I know that I know the map pretty well. And in my mind, the number of paths, it was just more fun just to have like better connections, better angles. But I didn't think about the rotations. And now after like Astra was what you mentioned earlier, Astra was the map for me that I really had to grit my teeth, finish it, and then find myself in a place that I've wasted tons of time into something that doesn't work, and then I had to put in the hours to actually fix it, and I did, and I learned so much about rotations and how map control works, and that's like one of the things that makes Astra so special for me, because it was also just like a playground of learning for me in every aspect. Everything that I've designed, everything that kind of works now with the map, that I've had to learn how to make the thing. And right now, the way that I've used to design is just like I make super large things and then I cut away, and then that also stands true with pathing as well. Like I have an idea which concludes like quite a lot of pathing, and then I've later realized that the pathing also ties into player movement and rotations and everything like that. So it's very very important to know how those things clash together. And I also like the point of designing that have the least amount of map there to be to give the max amount of play, and maps with I hate to say it, but like Dust 2 does it very well. I would even say that like Dust 1, if it got a remake, or like one little path added to the back, or like from lower, the underpass lower area, if you could get from there wrapped around to A side from like the little corner that's in the elbow, like there's the slope that goes down, and there's the bottom, and the CT Opera is up at the top looking at the underpass. If you could get out of underpass, go past the ramp, long angle, and get to A, I think the map would be like the most simple map there is, actually. Like just from pathing, it's just like you go straight, there are connecting things in between, 2 bomb sites, and then like one large open. It kind of would have a middle then. And I really like that approach of having the least amount of map.
What I think about Dust 1 is, like one of the major problems is for going from B to A or A to B, it's just one path.
Yeah, that too.
Or maybe 2 if you consider, going into the tunnel.
Yeah.
But again, you can, if there is someone who is holding the double doors of the B side, in that case, I mean, you just cannot go into the tunnels, right? So that's one of the major flaws that I see. And I think that's one of the reasons it's not there in competitive. So coming back to pathing, again, if you underdo it, that is also bad, because flanks, playing as a flank, it's like really, really nice, right? If I mean, it just adds to the depth. But at the same time, if there are a lot of paths and you just cannot predict if somebody's flanking or not, because there are so many paths and you just cannot take care of them. So I feel that's the problem. So in Dharma, for example, how we solved it is from A long, if you're trying to flank, or if from the mid you're trying to flank, you just need one T who is standing at the tree. He can give information about like both the things. If somebody is trying to just rush the terrorists from behind through the double doors, or through the T base, or through A long, you just need one terrorist on the tree to get that information and to inform others. So that's the thing. There are routes, and flanking, I mean, it will reward you, but at the same time it could be countered by not having a lot of resources put into just denying that. So I think that should be things should be like that.
Yeah, that's also good to bring flanking into like as a thing that should be promoted. Like sometimes when you hear feedback, it's just like, yeah, players are able to flank too fast. There's always CT coming behind us before we have even taken the bomb site, and stuff like that. And that has way more nuance than I'm letting you know about it, because like, does your team, your terrorist team, have a player watching the flank? Like that's also a thing. And in maps, in like, you don't play Mirage without someone like watching connector on CT, and that's a flanking position, like kind of, or you don't, even on T side. Like how many times have you been flanked from mid to A ramp while you have been waiting for 125 to throw fucking 4 smokes to A side? You get fucking flanked. You have to have someone watching mid or something. Like it's just not how you play Counter-Strike. It's not a single player game. It's 5v5 defuse. I mean that's the,
I mean, you just cannot tell the CTs to push, right? And people still have that thing, right? If somebody is still waiting at the spawn looking at the flag, they will start calling him camper.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the part of the game, right? He's just watching out for the flanks.
Yeah.
And it's completely fine if he's just sitting on the T-base and looking for it.
Yeah.
So, War Owl, sorry, not War Owl, War Puppy. He was like one of the players.
Who's that? War Puppy.
War Puppy was like one of the players on Face It. He plays a lot of Mapcore Face It.
Yeah.
So he was the one who actually identified this thing, that the other teams, they tend to flank a lot on Dharma. So he played that tree position a lot. And he always did good in the map. Just because he identified it.
Yeah.
People tend to be pushy. And especially when, there are no stakes. So this map core Face It didn't have elo, right? So it didn't affect your elo. So that was one of the things. In such conditions, people just try to, just run and gun. So that's the strategy most of the times. But if you're playing in a competitive settings, they will be throwing smokes and flashing and everything.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's all about identifying like how the other person is playing, and if your map is in such a way that you can just allocate one of the player to watch that position and he can stop the flanks. I think it's a good thing, because it just adds to the it just adds to the gameplay. There's not just one single thing that people can do. So in Mirage, that's what I think. I mean, right now, even when you're playing in MM, for example, people just do 2 things mainly. Either they go to B, it's a B rush, or they throw smokes at A.
Yeah.
The third thing will be, they will try to go at mid and, fight with the Opper and stuff.
Yeah.
Mostly it's just 2 things. So it becomes boring after a while, and especially after you've played a lot of matches. And that's one of the reasons I'm not playing Mirage today. It used to be like one of my favorite maps, but now I don't play it so much because it has become stale. So just to prevent your map from becoming stale too soon, I think it's good to have those flanks. Anubis does a really good job in that, because you have this underground area. You can also go back to the mid. You can also go back from the CT. So there are so many options that you can do. And again, if you're pushing the underground path, then you also have this the higher area towards A, right? Somebody can just hide there and watch.
Yeah, you have to clear it. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, there are a lot of places where you can just allocate one resource, and they can either kill the person who is flanking, or they can at least give the information that, hey, this player is pushing from here.
Yeah.
So that's how it should be.
Yeah. Anubis is actually a good, very good. What's the word? What's the word?
Well thought out layout.
It's I'm blanking on the word. Example. There we go. Anubis, like, it has changed so much from the first versions to the version that we have right now in CS2, and just it's such a good example of like having a middle that doesn't really have like the classical middle connected to the bomb sites like in the after the first encounter. In like, well, I'm gonna use Mirage as an example because that's the basis right now. And even in Dust, like you have the first fight, and then from that area, from the first fight area, you have the connections to the bomb sites. It's doing that differently of separating the middle fight from the actual middle connection, and then the flanking on I really like the flanking on Anubis. And then also, just to set an example for like fun ideas, I think the window to drop down to water, that's such a fun idea. Just like it's so simple, having just a little window there, and then with a sound cue, it's like if Dharma had the door like on the second floor, and you could like open it and then drop down to have a flank. It's stuff like that. You have to have some like fun ideas in your levels as well. I want to go a little bit back to a thing that I forgot to mention with Astros, like that the rotation thing was just an obvious flaw that no one like pointed out to me until people pointed it out to me, and then like after playing 40 games on the map, I was like, oh shit, like this rotation flaw has always been there. And
I remember telling you about it though.
You told me, and then
I told you there are a lot of loops.
You told me about it, but I think it was like I think when Via was getting the map into Faces Hub, I got sudden out of a sudden, like it just hit me like, okay, the map is going somewhere, like I really have to think about this like more seriously. And then I got like feedback from 3 different people at the same time telling me that the rotations it's nice to have like fast connections, but terrorists just are able to juggle like A and B, and that was, to me, that was like, oh my fucking god, like I have to fix this somehow. And then up until a very late stage of development, like the map actually changed for the better. And I actually have had this like same thing happen to, or like I didn't have it happen to, but I feel like last week we played this thing Gale by Robbie Bobby in mapping, and it just dropped. What the hell? Okay, so last week, like we were playlisting the map, and the DE Gale has been playlisted quite a lot now. It's around like 20 or something, like 15 games that we have playlisted, and in total, I think. And it had this issue with everything is on a slope basically. So all the fights happen on a slope. There's an angle on A main, for example, that you're sitting behind a pillar, and then the terrorist is peeking you off of a ramp, and the player's like size and positioning of the head position changes so much because of the player being on a slope, that it's creating like this unpredictable, very random gameplay that Counter-Strike just doesn't enjoy. Counter-Strike doesn't perform well in this type of an environment. And the map has been playlisted so much that I had to tell the mapmaker, it's like, fix this one thing, go through the map, fix all of these things, all of these like random ramps everywhere, make them flat to where the action actually happens, and make the ramps where you actually want them to. For example, where a player is like watching down a ramp, and you can see the player under it, and you can see the player up top, and it's a fair fight because you're like completely exposed, and you're facing the ramp basically. And there are just those like obvious things that really come into fruition for some people. Like I noticed that thing like after playing the map for like 10 games, you know. It's just like map making is such a hard thing, because like no one is there to tell you that, like there's no guidebook again, like there's no, like you can study these things, you can get these things pointed at you, but it's so random, and it's just like having more of a concrete like basis to build up on. It's such a hard hobby. And then moving on to the feedback, Facet's the app that they built that's gathering the feedback. That it's such a helpful thing. And I remember you were probably the first one that sent me the link. I didn't even know that it was a thing until you sent me the link of the Face It Mapcore hub statistic page. Were there any things that really like surprised you when reading into the stats?
I'm sorry, I'm losing you. What was the question?
So with the Facets,
I heard about the stat. Last part, I missed that.
Yeah. So were there any things that really like surprised you with the statistics?
It's quite helpful, to be honest, the statistics, because you get to know that okay, you are doing fine, because so there was not anything like that just triggered me into changing something because of the statistics, and because I was able to compare it with the other maps that were there. So it just gave me an insight that even though the layout is different, things are pretty balanced because it's still running just like the other maps. So it just gave me more confidence. So what I've seen with other maps is like the number of times the bombs are planted, that is approximately somewhere around like 50%.
Yeah.
And then the number of times they were diffused, that is approximately around 25%, which is like 50% of the 50%. So I think Dharma was so yeah, it was assuring to see it in terms of data, and it's not just just you looking at the matches, and maybe sometimes there are bad matches or sometimes there are good matches. But if you have the consolidated data, it just reassures you that okay, I'm not doing something wrong, so it's working. At the same time, yeah, if there was some pretty obvious through you should be changing, I think that would have reflected. And I think Whaleman and it was Top Hat Waffle. They did a really good job, coming up with this thing.
Yeah, and Jim Wood, I think, also worked on it.
You have all the heat. Jim Wood, yes, Jim Wood.
Yeah.
Jim Wood creates so many tools which are like so helpful.
Yeah.
Even the radar maker. Yes. So this is like one of the things as well. We as map makers, I mean, people still know that okay, not everyone, but still the people who care, they know about it, that these are the people who are making the map.
Yeah.
But a lot of people, they don't know about these people.
So I guess like a little bit adding on to the Face It like statistic, I was surprised how detailed it is. Like I'm gonna link down the video that I made about it, but it would be so helpful to have this tool for everyone to always have. I know it's asking a lot, and I don't even know how would other platforms do it, if not the same way that like that Mapcore has it with the hub. But it's just showing like if there would be an obvious flaw with the map, it would be represented in the heat maps and stuff like that. And it's just like I had the same feeling of like reassurance from seeing that the map is balanced, first of all, or whatever that even means. But T's and CT's, like it was like 49, 51 or something. Yeah, it was so. Actually, was it? Yeah, it was something like, it was like ridiculously balanced. It couldn't pretty much have been. If it was 50-50, then it was okay. But like we're under 1%. But still. And then seeing the positions that the bombs were planted at, diffuses versus like bomb explosions, the guns. Not a single gun was like super like abused. Like I was kind of afraid that like shotguns would have become like too overpowered in certain areas, or indoor places would have become dominated by SMGs. But what I was really surprised was to see that AWP actually wasn't really that often used in Astra. And from those statistics, what I I might be guessing wrong, but is AWP like one of the main weapons in Dharma?
Not really. I think it's AK, and I also think it also boils down to what players want to use. Because if you consider it, you can have an SMG or a shotgun. At the same time, you can have an AWP. But these weapons, I feel they're not as versatile as your normal rifles, right? Because they will work in long range as well. At the same time, the fire rate is high, so it's like a mix of everything. So I feel that's just how the game is. And in matchmaking, for example, I've seen a lot of times people just abusing shotguns and everything on maps that you wouldn't actually think about. That okay, somebody can just use an automatic shotgun on Overpass. I had one match like that. All the 5 people in the team opposite to us, they were all using shotguns. So it depends on players as well. I feel, and a lot of people, they just prefer to have the rifles.
There are just some people that, for example, there's a is the word avid Map Inc. playlister, like does that represent it well? Like there's this guy called Jay, who plays only SMGs and shotguns, and he doesn't study the game. He just plays. Like Jay plays the game in a way that he doesn't care if he peeks the same angle and dies like a million times. He will just keep peeking the angle and trying to get the kill. And normally, like you've seen these like tutorials on how to peek correctly in CS2 and whatnot, and people are starting to realize like the correct way to like peek angles from as far as possible to show you at the same time as you see the enemy or whatever. But Jay playing with shotguns is peeking as close as to the corner. Like he has a different style to his peeking, and if you peek with a shotgun as close to the corner as possible, you will expose yourself to the player before you see them. But then again, you're closer to the enemy at any given moment, and you're going to hit the shotgun shot. And even like he doesn't stop right after he's peeking. He extends super wide and press W when he's shooting. So he just like closes these gaps. Like it's kind of astonishing to see, like kind of beautiful to see, like how a player can play every map the exact same way, depending like, and he's like on his main account he was like Supreme or something, just playing shotguns. And it's definitely like when people say that like AK is meta, AWP is meta, like M4 is too powerful, but like nerf the XM with this particular dude. It's just it just depends. Like before somebody figures out that SG is overpowered as well, and everyone starts playing with SG. So it's just things like that. I still have a friend. When we opened up, I mean, I'm not a very good player, right? So I lie in the range of Novas and MGs. But when we started with Silver 2, right? And this friend of mine, he used to play with AUG and SG in Silver. And today, when like after all these years, he's still using those two same guns. So it's a lot about preference as well, and most of the people, they just tend to just use M4s and AKs. So I don't think that, I mean, it can give you the data about of being very powerful on your map or stuff like that, but I think for most of the maps it's quite predictable that rifles are going to dominate. And it's also fun to design. Like, of course, you can design an angle to be played with a certain gun, and that's just how some maps are designed. Like, and you can have. Well, I'm speaking when I'm talking about Dust 2. In my mind, the T-spawn like Suicide Arch is still open. Like, I still haven't gotten over the change. I just don't understand like why did they close it? Like, bring it back. Anyway, that scope, like that long sideline, it can be played with any other gun but then it's more about about informations, like how the player movement is like understood in that position. So it's fun to design angles to be played on certain angles to be played on with like certain guns. But if your map doesn't allow for players to like use any other guns in that way, then you are going wrong. And I feel there's another like nuance to a thing that almost every mapper has heard at some point, of like design angles for different guns. But it's like, you know, you have to have that.
But again, for the same spot, one thing that I feel is in most of the rounds, there will be just one player doing the op, or maybe two, right?
Yeah.
Again, the other 3 or 4 players, they are again going to play with the rifles because they are more versatile.
Yeah.
So, op is situational for just that angle, or maybe, you know, a few more angles, but at the same time, you are investing too much of money in that.
Yeah.
And that is impacting the whole team's economy as well, because they tend to be people who are, you know, every round they would do op, they would die, and they would just ask the teammate to drop another op.
Yeah.
And yeah, so with weapons being there, you know, the meta being around a particular weapon, that is surely a thing. But again, people can have their own preferences as well.
Yeah.
So yes, I personally never, you know, think of an angle particularly that, okay, this is the gun that I have in mind, that, you know, there will be an opera or something like that.
Yeah.
At least on Dharma, I didn't do that.
Yeah.
Probably in Calamari, there were angles that I specifically designed that way, that, you know, probably an opera can hold this angle or something like that. But in Dharma, I didn't do that.
Yeah. That's a good. I would even go as far as to say that that's very good to have in your, like, if anything, that's good thing to design. Like that can be a method to design your whole map. Like, I'm not going to design this map based on like what weapons are going to be used where. More like these guns have to be like, every gun has to have a position somewhere. But I let the play this thing like. I let the players just like find that out, and that's going to result in different feeling map in a certain way. Just sometimes you play this map that's just like the mapper has intended for you to have a gun here, which you don't have at some point. Then you're like, oh fuck it, I'm gonna one dig like middle every round because I don't have the op and I'm just saving for it. And it's you know, those. Going back to the whole topic of elongating the age of a map, like replayability, it's like how do you ensure that? And it's like having a diverse, or like every area could be played with necessarily with like every gun. It kind of ensures already that. And yeah, what do you think about? I think this is going to be one of our like last topics. Who do you think you have to design the map for? What do you think first and foremost? Do you? There are some people who think about the top highest professional level, and how do you see this? Obviously, everyone sees it different. Like I think like more of a nuance to this is also just like design it for design the map to be understood by everyone, obviously. And the pro scene will always like conform to whatever, because like they really understand the map. But do you have this like certain thought in mind that, okay, I'm going to design this map for like professional play? Because that's also a thing that so many mappers have in mind, that, oh, this map is designed for professional play. What do you think about that whole thing?
To be honest, I don't follow esports.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I just cannot design a map for professional play because I don't know much about it. I mean, obviously there are highlights and stuff that I have seen, but I don't religiously follow esports. But one thing that I think about this topic is most of the times I've seen that pros are very, I mean, they do not like changes.
Yeah.
So whenever there is something new added, even when Anubis was added, there were people who were, shitting on it. Even though Anubis is like, I think it's the best map right now in the pool. So, and also I think it does not make sense to just design the map for the pros. Not saying that pros cannot help you and improve the map. Obviously they can, because they will find a lot of things on your map that you wouldn't even know about, that will be unintentional, and probably they will, they can advise you pretty good. But just having, I do not have access. I cannot, just go and just talk to any pro player and get their feedback, right?
Yeah.
So for me, I think I just design the map according to the normal usual players.
Yeah.
Because pros, again, there are going to be like some 10% of the people who are pros, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe even less than that. So yeah, it's a very small amount of audience if you consider just the pros.
Yeah.
Whereas your map should be something that is enjoyed by a wide variety of players. So for me personally, it makes more sense to think like a MG player.
Yeah.
Just design the map like that.
Yeah.
Because that's where the bell curve is, right?
Yeah.
Most of the people, they fall in the same category.
Yeah.
It's not completely for the silvers, because it's not just as simple as Dust 2 where you can just do something, but at the same time it's not too complex that you will have to just strategize and stuff like that. So there has to be a balance. I think those are the maps that are most enjoyable.
Yeah. And I was talking about it was a new guy in mapping called Lamarite, who made this fun map which is like filled with containers. It's just like I think it was called like CS Dockyard Escape or something. CT start with the hostage and they pick it up, and then you have to escape the map pretty much, and Ts are like CTs and Ts like climb these containers, and it's just like whole loads of fun anyway. And like the feedback that I gave to Lamarite was to like it's a map played by probably few people on like 2v2, 1v1 or whatever. Like my main feedback was that the action has to happen quite fast in the map. Players don't like it. Like it becomes very boring if 1v1 situation you have to like run 10 seconds to get to the fight. And this is a point that I made to him, that is that the best maps conform to most like variety of different amounts of players. So if your map can be enjoyed by on 1v1, like Dust 2 did for a long time, like it does right now, I'd say there's a little bit more CT-sided because the middle, like the fastest engagement point has been changed. But Mirage also does this, Cash does this, Inferno does this. Like name the top maps you can get into firefight very quickly, and it conforms to the 1v1. This also translates to the workshop favoring 1v1 maps. Obviously, like the most famous maps. If you make a 1v1 map, the chances are that it's going to be in the front page of the workshop within like couple days or whatever. And it's just realizing these things. You can design these and you can stumble upon them by accident, but it's just like understanding who are you making the map for. And obviously, like the question asked, like, do you think about like designing the map for a competitive scene? Like I'm smiling, but it's a question that like some people ask themselves, like I've seen it so much, and it's just like kind of funny. But at the end of the day, the professionals aren't really playing it. They're more like studying the map and trying to come up with a new way to get an advantage. And I think it's just like when people, or like when pros react negatively to changes, they're pretty much just like projecting their feeling of like, oh, I gotta work more, I gotta study more, it's natural. Like you're getting a new fucking book to read or a new movie to analyze, and like you're being expected the highest level of professionalism and like it's a sport. Imagine they change the rules of football every year, or change the pit to be something else. You're going to be frustrated a little bit.
At the same time, I mean, it is kind of, discouraging how pros, they do not like the changes because, just because they will have to work harder.
Yeah.
Because the way these people, they speak about, these maps.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people who follow them, they form the same impression about the map.
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
Once that impression is there, it's gonna stay.
You cannot shake it. Yeah.
So just take Cache for example. It was really unfortunate that agents were released with the upgrade of Cache.
Yeah.
And they blended into the walls and stuff.
Yeah.
Right now, Cache is, it's not as green as it used to be. It's kind of normal, and you can play it well, and everything is fine.
Yeah.
But the thing is, if when CS:GO was there, if you queue for Cache, the wait time used to be so long for you to find a match. So it just says that, that impression that people had in the beginning, that okay, after the change, it's a shit map.
Yeah. It
just stayed there. And I feel pros should be a little, considerate about this thing as well. That it's the game that has made a career for you guys. So you need to think about the longevity of the game as well, because these maps are the maps that are going to stay. If you consider Dust 2, if you consider any map except for Overpass, Ancient, and Canal, they were all community maps, right? And it's just over the time that people learn to play those maps and do better on it. Nuke plays so differently, for example. People still play it, and people still love it.
Yeah.
Why? Because people know how to play it. There are so many flaws, but they still, they just ignore that because they know the map. So that's something that I feel, pros should be thinking about this stuff as well.
Yeah.
And rather, they should, just see it as an opportunity. There's a new map. Probably our team can learn it before the other teams.
Oh yeah, that happened to Vertigo. Like I can't remember the teams because I'm not that savvy with that sort of thing. But there was a whole thing with they changed they changed the whole map, and then it was almost immediately thrown into a major, or was it like a LAN or something, and then one of the teams just it's a new opportunity. And also the map, the players are just be thankful that there's a new map every once in a while and not all the time, because if you're going to complain, they're going to take the map out, and now you have to go back to some other map. They have to replace the map with something else now, and there's 2 changes, and now you have wasted time. And as a professional, you have to be professional about feedback as well. Are you a professional about this thing? It's you have to be a little bit more, know who you are already. When you are in a professional scene, you have to be professional about almost everything. You have this status. Yeah. And
also for their own occupation, I think for the tenure while they're playing games professionally, it's going to be quite a lot of years, right?
Yeah.
So if we are watching the same maps, it's for their viewers as well, it's better if there are new maps, because I would want to watch new strategies on a new map rather than just watching the same old Mirage. Where you are going to do the same stuff.
Yeah.
So I think they should also think it that way, and it's important for the whole ecosystem that everyone is thinking about these aspects as well. That Counter-Strike, it started as a game mod, and a lot of stuff, it came from the community.
Yeah.
And just for the game to just keep running just like that, you need new content.
Yeah.
And you should be welcoming. And I think Premier, this game mode, that's a step in the right direction. Because what happens is nowadays when I'm playing Premier, there is this graph that you are shown, right? So it shows that the other team has played Mirage quite a lot.
Yeah.
So every time my team, it ends up just banning
Mirage. Yeah, you don't want to play it. Like, we don't want to fucking.
You don't want to play it because you know that the other players, the opponents, they have played that map a lot.
Yeah.
You don't want to risk it. So it's a good change, and I think with these kind of changes, we are heading in the right direction now.
Yeah, I think that's it's a very good change, and competitive. No one plays it anymore because it's like the rank. It means so much for players to have some sort of a level or some sort of a stat to really know what level of a player you are, and some sort of a top rank to aspire to be at. It might not have been intentional to make the premiere so inclusive that it is, and actually introduce that aspect to it as well. I don't think Valve really thought of like, oh, if you see another if like from that aspect of having all the maps played on almost equal basis of seeing like a really good 5-stack on a Mirage as an opponent, you're gonna take Inferno or like some other map or Nuke. And it's very good that you bring that up, because like I haven't thought of it from that point necessarily, but yeah, that's the natural reaction to that. You see an opponent that's very good on one map, you're like, okay, I'll take Ancient over a 5-stack on Mirage, like and it's, again, you might have an easy game on Ancient, and that might change your view of Ancient as a whole. And that's a step into the right direction of having a positive experience on a new map. That's not necessarily it's very standard, but it's not standard in the way that Mirage has set the standard now. It's a little bit of a different. But yeah, Valve needs to do something a little bit more to introduce, or like just show the example of new maps are really what keeps the game alive.
I think, I mean, it's just a gut feeling that, that's the direction they're heading into.
Yeah.
They will be involving a lot of maps now.
Yeah.
I mean, it just makes sense, right? Because Anubis is, it's quite popular now in a very short amount of time. When it was in operation, probably not so much, but now it is. Once it's a proper active pool map.
Yeah.
And if you think of it, they did the same thing with the competitive as well, because they introduced individual ranks for every map.
Yeah.
So that's like, if you want to just try out the new maps before just directly going into the premiere, you can start as a silver player, or you can start as an unranked player on that particular map and just play with just new players just like you. And learn the map, and once you have learned the map, you can jump into the premiere and start playing the map.
Yeah.
So they've done that thing as well for competitive. So I think their intention is good with that.
Yeah.
The only reason that I feel competitive is not working so much is, like, one reason is that you have a overall elo that gets displayed in premiere. The second thing is, I think it's an overkill that you need to win 10 matches on each map. So that's too much.
Yeah, it was for many people. I've heard almost everyone who I've talked about the Premier rank thing has said that 10 games is a little bit of an overkill. Like it took me like 35 games to win 10 of them, because I was solo queuing like almost every single one of them. I played like 5 games with a 5-stack, and you want to guess what my ranking was on my account? Like, what? How much was your ranking when you got it on Premiere? Let's start with that.
Premiere, it started with 1500, around 1500.
You got straight to 1500.
Yeah, now it's around 4500.
15. Oh yeah, okay. Language barrier. 1500. Yeah, so 1500.
1500.
Yeah, okay. I got the same around that, and I was like, what the fuck? Like people that I like sometimes play with that I know that are higher skilled than me, but I can still like get to that, are playing at like 15,000. And I'm I'm getting the 10% of that elo to start with, and I was like, what? But now I'm around like 8K.
A lot of people, they started from that particular number, because people around me as well, when I saw them, you know, they were also at the same level.
Yeah.
So I think most of them, it's opening up around like below 2000.
Yeah.
Because earlier the first lab was at 2000, if you remember. Now they have upgraded it to be on 5000, then 10,000.
Yeah, I wasn't around for necessarily playing the I don't remember how they managed to calculate the first stats, but now I think up until 4K you don't lose any elo. You only, like, when you lose, you like, let's say you're 3,200 and you lose one, you're normally supposed to lose like 140 something or whatever, but you you can only gain elo. So they're setting the standard of like silver players to be like the lowest skill ceiling is around 4,000, and if you're like 4,000, you're like stable 4,000, always that there, then you're pretty much like you deserve the lowest rank. And people who are still calibrating, I think the word calibrating is good here, because it represents like people are still finding their ranks. And I think for the next like half a year up until, or however this season lasts, I think for a couple coming months, people will be still calibrating, but it's gonna get better. And that also ties to the whole community opinion, or like the public opinion of Counter-Strike 2 sucking right now, of like, oh yeah, solo queuing is terrible and I cannot get a good game. Like, no, people are like, the ranks are still calibrating. You're gonna get crazy games, because like the people are starting to pick it up more and more, and it's
I feel people are a little too impatient, and they don't realize that, you know, good things, they take time. And a lot of people, they criticize that, you know, they release an unpolished game, which is true. I mean, it's not in the best form, and a lot of things were done better in Counter-Strike Go, for example. Done better as in they were better when they sunsetted the game. So, but the thing is, if there are more number of people who are playing the game, they have more data to work upon.
Oh yeah. And it was a good choice. It was such a good choice to like cut off CS:GO, because then you have the whole potential player base playing the same game and giving all the data. It was a good thing, and it's just like moving from a polished game. Let's say like CS:GO, how it was before CS2 was released. Like, you could say that it was polished as shit. It's like it was like the movement was people describe it as like perfect, or whatever that even means. The gunplay was like, it was so satisfying, like to get a kill with a op or like one dig. It's like perfect or whatever. Like, so many aspects when comparing CS:GO to CS2 right now, you could describe it as perfect. But like coming from like CS Source to CS:GO as well, like seeing the graphics, they were a little bit like gritty in the wrong way. As in CS Source, like the aesthetic was like kind of holistic already. It looks, CS Source looks good in its own way. And then going from CS Source to CS:GO, it's like, oh, what is this? And it's like the fingers look a little weird, and it's holding the knife in a weird manner or whatever. Like, there's tons of those things that can be criticized. But with CS:GO to CS2, the visuals are already kind of there, right? But
there are always going to be players, you know, who will criticize. So, for example, even like earlier this year, CS:GO was, you know, 10 years and more. We had the game, more than a decade. We had the game, and they were constantly polishing it, and it was in a very fine state, right?
Yeah.
But obviously, it was becoming unmanageable, because it's like 10 years of adding the features that they didn't necessarily had a foundation for. So, but still, there were people who would, you know, still criticize CS:GO, that, you know, CS 1.6 used to have better movement and better shooting mechanics. So comparisons are always going to be there. and the same thing is happening. Just because people are not winning the matches, they would criticize that gunplay shit. Maybe the sprays have changed a little bit, so probably you will have to adjust. Obviously it is unpolished, but the thing is, you need to look at it in this way, that there were things that they didn't consider when they started with CSGO, and there were things that they implemented later on, which actually made it much more complex to maintain. But now when they're starting CS2, they have all that knowledge, and they already have the foundation. They know what the future is supposed to be like. So it will be much more easy to manage. And just by looking at the tools, I mean, you really understand that Valve has all the intentions to just push the updates as soon as possible, because I mean, just look at that, what they did to Hammer. I mean, we already talked about it, right? So that's the thing, and that is something that a lot of people won't know because they're not into this thing.
It's so map making is just, we play on the maps, but people don't think who made this map, and then what went to making, like, why does this feel so great? And it's so easy to take it as granted.
That's actually the thought that actually got me into mapping, because I mean, being in a third world country, we had to go to cyber cafes just to play the game, because we didn't have internet in all the households, right? So while growing up, when I was just about to graduate from school, that was the time, like maybe a couple of years before that, when I got the internet at my place, and that was the time when I started playing Counter-Strike 1.6, and we used to, we had the server, we used to go to that server, and every time I would play on that server, I would figure out that, okay, this is a new map, this is a new map, this is a new map. Then I was like, somebody's making these maps.
Right? Where are they coming from? Right.
Then I figured out that, okay, there is this website called Game Banana. I went there, I saw there are so many maps you can download. I started downloading the maps, and then I was like, if these people are making these maps, I can too. So that's how it started. So not everyone is there, but I mean, it's been so good, because I just had that question in my mind. That somebody is doing it, so probably I can too.
That's very interesting to hear about, like, and I hope for everyone, like, to really think, like, what really got you into mapping? Well, what was the one thing that got you into mapping? And for me, I think it was my younger brother who opened up Hammer for the first time, and I was like, what is this? I was playing Minecraft, and I was always like trying to build something new in Minecraft, and like make like single player maps, for like adventure maps, they were called then. And that got really tiring, and I was like so over my building in Minecraft. And then CSGO, my brother downloaded CSGO Hammer SDK, and he booted it up, and he started building something. And then I was so enthralled by it. I was like, what? You can make all these things, and like you have all these game modes, and I can actually make maps for this. And I played Counter like CSGO at that point on my laptop, and I just upgraded from a laptop to like a good PC, so I could actually map. And it was just, I don't know, for me the transition from like building Minecraft maps to making maps for CSGO was just like, I was so tired of it, and that really got me into mapping like that then. And I'm kind of I think like a human mind is lazy by nature, but I was getting so tired of building Minecraft maps that I just kind of had to make something. So for me, there wasn't really like a certain thought that went to like seeing a map and being like, oh, who made this? I think that like came later on when I like got really into really more invested in mapping and whatnot. And like after making my own like experiments, I really like started looking into other maps and what they did better, and like stuff like that. So but yeah, you had like exact what's the word, like synopsis of the idea of like who made this, and then started looking deeper into that.
and also it brings me back to the same thing that we had the network issues at.
Yeah.
So it's the community actually that I discovered, which was I mean, I wouldn't have continued with the mapping if there were not people who actually helped me out. So, for example, like I told you the other day as well, there was this guy called Timmy Cakes on Game Banana.
Shout out.
And yo, shut up, boy. That was his tagline. Yes. So I just made my first map. The first time I made it, the scale was pretty off. Then after a couple of tries, I got the scale correct. But then it didn't run so smooth because back then even the computers used to be like so bad.
Yeah.
Right. I had a Pentium 3 with some 128 MB RAM, not GB, MB. So yeah, I mean that map was not running smooth, and like, why am I getting this FPS drop? And I googled it, and then I came across this thread by Timmy Cakes, and he was like, I'm just getting bored, and I'm willing to help anyone out with optimization.
I'm just bored. And what a guy.
Yeah. So I that's the time when I actually made an account on Game Banana. Before that, I was just visiting the website, downloading the maps.
A lurker.
And that was the time when I made an account. I contacted that guy, and that guy helped me out with like first couple of maps. And he didn't have to do it at all.
Yeah.
He just did it. Same goes for the people at Mapping or Mapcore or Source Discord, and so many people who are just building the tools and the statistic tool that you were talking about. They're just doing it without actually owing anything to anyone.
Yeah.
They're just helping each other out because they want to see the game flourish, or they just love to do it.
Yeah.
Like whatever their reasons are, they're just doing it, and it's so beautiful, right?
Yeah.
That and these people, they do not get as much praise as they should.
Yeah, no way.
Because even if a map gets selected and it gets into the game, on the credits you just see the name of the mappers. That these 2 people, 3 people, 4 people, they created this map. But everyone who was there, who posted the map on a server, who play tested, who created tools for doing all sorts of stuff that we cannot do with the normal tools that Valve provides.
Yeah.
It's an iceberg.
Yeah.
To see the tip, and there's a lot that's below the surface of the water.
Yeah.
So it's just a beautiful thing that you only discover when you are just into it.
Yeah.
Otherwise you just don't. And I mean, being part of the community, that is rewarding, and being able to just seeing your map being played by the other players, no matter if it's just one match, one 5v5 match, but when that one match happens, it's rewarding in itself, because that's something that you've built. Maybe it took you 3 years, or whatever time it to make that map, and whatever effort went into it. But that moment when people start playing, it's I mean, you just cannot define it.
Yeah, it's the thing about the actually with the iceberg, you know what's at the bottom of it? There's a WinRAR to open zip files. It's like supporting everything, and then to build up on the community thing, like Map Inc. It came for such a perfect time for me. I had been mapping at for 4 or 5 years at that point, and I was just making maps for myself, but I always wished for other people that they would play it. And then I found so Mapping was made by this guy called Dimitri on YouTube, who made a mapmaking series on his on a church map. And he created the Dimitri server, which he has moved on with his career and whatever. What a great guy of actually just actualizing all these ideas and creating a community. And then later on, the most active members just started moderating the thing and just changing everything and having so much fun with the operations and the world building with the operations, and it has so much lore. But this I remember my first playtest, I was so I was so excited to just have my map playtested and taken seriously, and I didn't know if it even played well, but I was just like giddy with the idea of other people playing the map, and I committed the worst sin that any mapmaker could do. I was like explaining little things before the playtest and showing like nade lineups and shit like that, which I've now understood that you're not supposed to do that, because like it just takes people out of the map, and it's so condescending, even if you mean well. It's like talking down to the players. This is how you smoke mid in this map. Like let the map speak for itself. Stuff like that. But it's without those people, I wouldn't have learned any of this. Probably, maybe, probably. But it's just, and even if you're like just a part of, like a member of a community, but you just lurk, and it's like just if you're there just to see. Like even mapping having like 500 members, it's so cool to just know that you're a part of something, and you can reach out to those people and have those people even just like see. You don't have to react to anything. You don't have to comment on anything. It's good if you do. It grows the community aspect of it. But it's so thankless at the end of the day. And play this thing, it's so thankless, and it's playing the game. Counter-Strike is a frustrating fucking game. And it's so annoying sometimes to play the game, but it's also like I've said this: the players who you have to be kind of a crazy person to like Counter-Strike. But it's like, and I've said this earlier: like Counter-Strike players are the most annoying, but also the most creative people on the planet. Like it's just that's just how I see it. Like they yeah.
And again, I mean, there are 3 different Discord servers who, you know, who are doing the same thing, maybe at different levels, but most of the people, they are overlapping. They are in all 3 servers, and then you used to have Game Banana. The thing is, no matter what the name is, whether it's Mapcore or Mapping or you know, Game Banana or whatever, it's the same people.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
You know, so and just a little thing that I have is. I mean, again, being from a third world country, a lot of things come, you know, quite late here in India. So Steam didn't have a way to do the transitions in transactions in our own currency.
Oh, really?
And I didn't have, back then when back in 2013, and. I didn't have a card that would work internationally.
Yeah.
So I was part of, but I was still making maps on Game Banana, right? So we used to have this Christmas giveaway thing in December. There was this moderator called Mini.
Yeah.
And what they would do is, so what Mini would do is, he would, every day of December, like 1st December, he would give you a challenge that, okay, you just have to comment on this thread.
Yeah.
Then you just comment there, and you are automatically in for a draw. And they would, you know, just do a lucky draw, and whoever is the winner would get whatever game is supposed to be given that day. The second day you have to make a painting. The best painting wins. The third day you have to write poetry. Fourth day you have to create this thing. So there used to be these mini draws and mini contests every day of December.
Damn.
And I've won a lot of games there. And in 2013, Counter-Strike Global Offensive also came from there. I didn't even buy the game.
No way. That's so cool. We gotta steal that for mapping. Just like have, like give away like roles, or like obviously we're supporting the server with our own money, but it's like, you know, do something fun like that. That sounds fucking awesome. Like we gotta steal that.
For 25 days, that guy would, you know, every year that guy would run these giveaways, and there used to be a lot of good games. Like I've won the whole Hitman franchise from there. And I just won on the right days, actually, to be honest. And they were giving out Counter-Strike Global Offensive, I won.
So. Damn, god damn it. Such a cool story again. But it's like,
And probably you would, you know, you can still go back to the website and see all those threads. And you can see my entries there as well. My poetries, my paintings and everything. That I used to do. And because that used to be, I mean, I am not a Christian, right? I was born in a Hindu family, so Christmas is a thing in India. I mean, we do celebrate it, but it's not the way you would celebrate it in the Western countries, like in Europe or America or wherever. So for me, the best of my Christmas memories are from that place.
Yeah, online memories. They're just like happening in the internet.
Because they used to make me, do something creative every day, and it used to be so much fun. Because you were doing something different every day for the whole December.
Yeah,
it used to be so much fun. So yes, I mean it's a pleasure to be a part of such communities.
Yeah, it's that's so well put. Like it's the same people. I guess it's just they're just like different town squares that people gravitate towards. It's just like what is the force driving people together? And I think right now with Mapping, it's just that we playtest maps. We have constant playtesting going on, and it's like at the end of the day, if you have a video game, like if you have a community based around playtesting video game maps, then that's what people are being gravitated towards, and you have to keep it up, and that's what with the other servers. I don't want to like talk down to speak trash on anything, but I think a huge mistake is to just like cut the playtesting when it's uncertain, and like you have to keep the core thing going, even with like with Counter-Strike's development. You have to keep the core game alive so that you can like tweak on it and make that thing perfect. And I also this goes back to the whole topic of like CS2, like in its current state. It's still in the beta, and kind of it's still in the beta. I call it the public beta right now, because it's just convenient to think of it as that. The Valve wanted to release it, and if they want to call it the final or like the full release of the game, it's stated anywhere you look for CS2. That's CS2, but it's still like, to me, it's a open beta. But yeah, it's just you have to keep giving the testers of the game, the players of the game, the thing to test, and just like keep that, keep it coming.
And again, I mean, it's amusing. It's something that you said as well, and I think a lot of people align with it. So there are friends, who would come to the game. They would get frustrated with like something or the other, packet loss or whatever, and they would abuse the game. They shouldn't have released it. It's not polished and this and that. And the same people would call you every night because they want to play a game.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's so good.
Yeah. All the things.
And that's the reason that I said that it's the same people everywhere, because no matter what the community is, I think ultimately we are just driven by this fact that we have to do something that that enhances the game.
Yeah.
And everyone wants that.
Yeah.
No matter how they're expressing it, everyone just wants to do the same thing. So it's the same people everywhere.
Yeah.
And another thing is, again, different servers, and they have different ways of playtesting it. Some they tend to be more strict with what standards they need to have to be playtested, and then we have some servers where it really does not matter.
Yeah.
I mean, they would playtest anything. So I think that is also needed, because that way you are catering to all sorts of map makers.
Yeah.
Because the people who are into the serious stuff, they would go to Mapcore, for example.
Yeah, for sure.
Because that's where a lot of people they just sit there because they want to give you the feedback specifically around the competitiveness of the game. Then you can go back to mapping, and you can just test out any casual map. It doesn't have to be competitive to be fun, to be honest.
Yeah.
So those maps are also necessary, and that is something that I miss about Counter-Strike 1.6. there used to be so many creative maps and they were not competitive. You just go into a map, you explore out, you explore the map. You would find so many things that it's just not possible today with how the scenario is.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that should be there, and that's what I like about gaming as well, because it is filling up that gap that's there. And at the same time, a server which is more serious like Mapcore, it's very essential.
Yeah.
Because they are, they have the resources to take those maps and to put them on a platform where more people would discover it.
Yeah.
And again, more people play on it, you get more feedback, and you can improve even further.
Yeah.
So I think it's good.
Yeah.
And I think Valve should also do something in that aspect, related to community servers, support community servers better, so that casual audience, they could just cater to the casual audience as well.
It's that's very good that you pointed it out, that like different servers cater to different needs, and that's a very very important thing to also like to mapping, to just cater to the starter, to the amateur. Like we want to give a platform. Like we play test everything, and we've had like it's such a joy just to like play this like these very very naive maps, and really go back to the go down to the basics of mapping with some like amateur, like super amateur maps, and then really delve into the fine, like super fine details with like more advanced maps. And it's just the diversity that I really enjoy. And also with like Mapcore and Source Engine, like they have such large communities and so many different people that they probably have had to limit the quality of maps playtested to a certain standard. And I think with Map Inc., like if it ever like blows up to having like to more than like a couple thousand people, like we obviously have to have some sort of a quality standard, like what's it called, quality testing, or like level of standard. And we've had talks about like someone on the team being like one of those people who goes through every map and just checks it if it's quality, if it works. And but it's not relevant at the moment, and I think it has affected the community to be like just more straightforward. Just like if you have a map, let's play this. Just have fun. And with those more less competitive playlists, it's like it's just the different experience, and you can honestly have like good old Counter-Strike fun,
Yes, and one thing that I feel is a lot of the advanced mappers, they would stick to the standards. They wouldn't do something really crazy in the map, because they have to meet those competitive standards that are there, right? Even if I'm making Dharma and it is unique in its own sense, but the thing is, it ultimately follows the same thing. The timings are almost pretty much as any other usual map.
Yeah.
If you compare the timing of the gunfight happening, or stuff like that, it's still similar to the maps that are in the game, because that's how it is supposed to be. But at the same time, somebody who's just starting off, he or she, like whoever it is, somebody who's starting, they would do anything, just because it's cool.
Yeah.
So they would try out different stuff. And in those things, the advanced mappers, they can also, learn something.
Yeah.
Because sometimes those cool things are actually really cool, and they could be implemented in your competitive levels as well. So I think that's also important for us to, discover the new people, because these people, they're fresh. They still have that creative liberty, because they are not bounded by making it competitive.
Yeah.
So I think it's very much needed.
Yeah, they have no standard to be held up to, and it's very important. Also, we talked with T1 Timur in the last interview about like setting your standards so low, and it doesn't necessarily correlate to this topic, but it's map making is one of those things that you really want to keep the sense of childlike play when you're creating something and trying to create something new and fresh. And it's so fun with like mappers like Cat Food who have a very like I think the strength of like when talking about Cat Food, for example, is that he can see the fun of like even though the map doesn't work in general sense or whatever, like whenever he plays like some other maps, but like he can see the fun and appreciate the fun aspect or the small little design for that. And I think more mappers or more just game like players of the game should have that sense of just trying to see the idea for it, if and like also like giving feedback. Just it helps to give the hamburger feedback of the meat bun, kind of like positive, negative, positive. So trying to keep that as well. That encapsulates a little bit of it, but just it requires a sense of again the childlike play to be there for making the map and giving feedback for the map and just experiencing it as well. And that's one of the things that we kind of tend to lose when things get too serious and too competitive, and definitely like competitive things that's like the world of adults, and just like the more casual scene and fun scene is like the kid zone. And I prefer to keep it like it's more fun in the playground. Like no one likes to be in the office, you know. It's Counter-Strike is one of those like playthings. Don't make it too competitive, you know.
I think that is one of the things that actually burns you out as well when you are trying to create a serious map and you're trying to achieve, you know, certain results, and that burns you out as a mapper.
Yeah.
Maybe, you know, later on once you've achieved those, it's more rewarding. But I think if you keep that fun aspect to your mapping alive,
yeah,
you actually enjoy it, and it doesn't become frustrating as such, no matter how long you've been doing it for.
Speaking of how long have we been doing this for? 2 hours and 10 minutes. You wanna? I think it's a time to wrap it up. But I'm gonna give you the mic for the last time. Any closing words? I know before I let you speak for the finishing touches. I know there's going to be a ton of like things from this interview that like that are coming up. So I'm gonna be taking them and making a little note to myself. So another interview perhaps in the future.
Sure.
Let's fucking go. Okay. Stage is yours. Any closing words?
I don't know, man. Like closing words. I would just say that, you know, it's very fortunate that I've always met people who were willing to help, and that also, I mean, in a sense, it also taught me to be helpful in my real life, and I think I'm very thankful for that.
Yeah.
Irrespective of where my maps go.
Yeah.
I'm just thankful to have all the people around me, and not just here in the mapping scene, but otherwise as well in real life as well. There have been situations where, you know, I just needed help and I got the help.
Yeah.
And I learned one thing, that, you know, you should never be shy of asking help.
Oh yeah.
Asking for help.
Yeah.
And I think only when you do that, you actually, you know, at times. So for example, this collaboration as well with Phrisk.
Yeah.
It's an example of that. Like I wouldn't have ever thought of it, that, you know, I would be, you know, just collaborating with the person who actually worked for Valve.
Yeah.
It's something that never occurred to me.
Yeah.
And I never also, you know, I mean, I didn't even ask for help because I just didn't think that it was possible. But she knew that, you know, I didn't have an artist.
Yeah.
And so yes, I'm just really fortunate that I have people around me who are so willing to help, and I'm just thankful.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing that I would like to say.
That's well put. That's well put. And people forget that, like, the building a little bit up on that. I know that this is a very long video, but this is very important to say. Nice people, like you said, you can kind of thank yourself for attracting people like around you. I think this, like, people forget that for other people to see you as nice, you have to be a nice person, kind of like there has to be something that other people gravitate towards as well. So remember to pat yourself on the back as well, of being like, well, I guess I'm pretty nice people, or a pretty nice person to get all this help as well. So a little bit of a selfish advice for you narcissists out there. But I think that's it.